You know, when most of us think of Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, we picture this cozy, classic story about four sisters. But what if it's actually something more? What if it's a surprisingly practical handbook for growing up, just disguised as a novel? Let's dive into that.
I want you to think about this for a second. What if the things you like least about yourself were actually your most important teachers? The whole story of Little Women is basically built around that exact question. See, the March sisters are not perfect, not even close. And their journey really begins when they get brutally honest about their own imperfections.
So, early on in the book, the sisters have this really frank chat with their mother, Marmee, about what they each struggle with the most. And they give these struggles a name, their burdens. These are the personal flaws they know they have to carry and, more importantly, try to overcome.
First up is Meg, the eldest. Her burden? Vanity. She loves pretty things, she worries about appearances, and keeping up with richer friends. This quote from her father kind of says it all. He remembers when keeping her hands perfect was her top priority. It's a gentle call out to her struggle with outward appearances.
And then we have our fiery, brilliant Jo. Her burden is no secret. It's that explosive temper of hers. She literally calls it her bosom enemy. And you can just feel the desperation in this quote, right? That feeling of trying so hard to fix something, only to have it blow up in your face again. It's a real, deep struggle for her.
Now, sweet, gentle Beth. Her burdens are a lot quieter, but man, they are just as heavy. It's the little things, like hating the daily grind of chores, but it's also deeper stuff, like that painful pang of envy she feels for others, and this crippling shyness, this fear of just people.
And finally, we've got Amy, the youngest. She comes right out and admits her biggest flaw is selfishness. She wants the finest things, she wants life to go her way, and learning to put others first is the huge burden she has to figure out how to set down.
Okay, so here's the crucial part. The girls don't just complain about these flaws. No way! They decide to actively work on them. And they do it by creating a kind of game, a whole framework for their lives, inspired by a book their mother absolutely loves.
And that book is The Pilgrim's Progress. Now, it was a massive bestseller back in the day. It's basically an allegorical story about a hero named Christian who has to face all his inner demons and faults to make it to the celestial city, or, a better life. The girls think this is a fantastic idea and decide they're going to live out their own personal pilgrimage.
And this quote shows just how seriously they took this game. They're having a bad night, feeling totally miserable, and Jo immediately connects it to a famous part of the book, the sloth of despond. The story gives them a shared language for their feelings, and, better yet, a map for how to get through them. And Marmee is their ultimate guide on this journey. On Christmas morning, she gives each of them their own personal copy of the book. It's not just a present, it's a tool, a guidebook as they call it, to remind them that conquering their burdens is a conscious choice they have to make every single day.
But this whole journey isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's also about building something new. It's fueled by their dreams for the future, which they charmingly call their castles in the air.
And what's so great is how different each of their castles are. Meg dreams of a lovely home and family. Jo wants to do something splendid, to be a famous author and have adventures. Beth's dream is so simple and pure, just to be safe at home with her family. And then you have Amy, who dreams of being a celebrated artist in Rome. Each one has a different vision and a different key they believe will unlock it.
But of course, the road to building those castles is anything but smooth. It never is, right? It's through real conflict, real sacrifice, and real loss that the sisters actually learn the lessons of their pilgrimage. This is where their character gets forged.
And this is probably the most powerful test of all. It's for Jo's temper. When Amy burns her manuscript, years of her work just gone, Jo's anger is absolute. She says, "I never shall forgive you." And she means it. But then Amy falls through the ice, and in that moment of sheer terror, Jo realizes what her anger could lead to. It's a horrifying wake-up call that forces her to face that bosom enemy for real. $25. This number represents another huge test of character. When their father gets sick while away at war, the family has no money for Marmee to go to him. So Jo goes out and sells her one beauty, her magnificent long hair, for $25. It's this incredible act of self-sacrifice, proving that her love for her family is so much stronger than any personal vanity.
Meg's big test comes after she gets married and starts building her dream home. She has this ideal of being the perfect, flawless housekeeper. And then, reality hits, in the form of a disastrous attempt at making jelly that just turns into a sticky, gooey mess. Through little domestic failures like this, she learns a huge lesson. A happy home isn't about being perfect. It's about love, partnership, and being able to laugh at the sticky messes.
So after all these trials, all these lessons, do they get their perfect castles in the air? Well, not exactly. What they find is something much more profound, much more real.
See, the ultimate prize at the end of their pilgrimage wasn't fame or a mansion or a grand tour of Rome. The prize was character. It was wisdom. They grew into women who truly understood themselves. Their strengths, yeah, but more importantly, their weaknesses.
Their new castles are the ones they built on a foundation of real-world experience. Meg finds pure joy in her cozy little home. Jo discovers her splendid purpose isn't fame, but nurturing a new generation at her school. Amy finds that love is a greater art than painting. And Beth's spirit, well, it becomes the quiet, guiding light for all of them.
And this quote from their father just brings it all home. He's looking at Meg's hands, which are no longer soft and white from a life of ease. And he doesn't see a flaw. He sees a story. He sees that her blemishes are actually proof of a life well lived, a life full of hard work and sacrifice and love.
And that brings it all right back to us, doesn't it? The story is essentially telling us that our struggles, our burdens, our imperfections, they aren't things we should be ashamed of. They're the very tools we use to build our character. So the real question the book leaves us with is, what's the little history that you're writing with yours?